What is going on, everybody? The Imperial Knight Codex comes out in like 2 days, right? It's early Thursday morning, technically. I'll consider this late Wednesday night. So Saturday, you will be able to pick up the new Imperial Knight Codex and your brand new Dominus class Imperial Knights. So this is just going to be a little discussion on what you should buy this weekend. First, I can't really remember the names. I think it's Valiant and Castellant, but we're going to call the two new big knights Flamethrower Knight and Volcano Knight. They are both very, very good. So number one, get it out of the way. If you have a knight, you want a knight, you're going to get some knights, whatever. Buy the Imperial Knight Codex. These models are expensive, so I think if you just pick up the Codex and hold on to it for a week or so, look over it, it'll give you a better decision on which one works for you. If not, this video might help. So, what you're going to want to do is ask yourself where your knight is going to be on the battlefield in your mind, right? So, for me, as mostly an Adeptus Mechanicus player, I have a pretty strong gun line. I can and sometimes use deep strike and those kind of tactics, but I have not a lot of great middle of the field units, right? I'll have, you could with like maybe some Electro Priests and stuff, and I do use those, but for the most part, if the other army's fully moving forward, a lot of your stuff is not moving forward because you can't go toe-to-toe in the middle of the board. You have to whittle them down and then take over the middle of the board. So for me, my choice being, if I'm going to take the Imperial Knight with the Adeptus Mechanicus, the way I play them, would be the Flamethrower Knight, because he is a savage killer in the middle of the board. He's going to move fast enough to shoot his flamethrower first turn, potentially run and shoot his harpoon gun first turn. That's debatable if that'll be in range. But this guy is going to control an objective in the middle of the board, and your opponent is going to have to put a lot of firepower into him. I think the first thing to look at when you're considering all the Imperial Knights, whether they be a small part of another force or the main part, and then you have some allies, or a full army of them, take defense. And I'm usually not the guy to say this, right? I usually think when you spend points on defense, you're wasting points, or it feels like you're wasting points. But take defense into consideration, whether it be your warlord trait, your artifacts, your relics, your stratagems, like what you're going to use command points on, your house rules. Whether, I'm not sure if any of them were very defensive, but you know, which ones of those unlock the best defensive relics or the best defensive stratagems. That's what's going to be important here, because you need those models to survive, because like maximum you're going to have 6, 7, 8 models, and then when you get into allies you'll have some more. But even then, some armies can kill an Imperial Knight like in one turn. I brought an Imperial Knight, pre-Codex obviously, to a tournament, and I got hit with the Predator kill shot stratagem, and I used my command point to give him a 4-up invuln, and he was dead from only 2 Space Marine Predators. The third one didn't even have to shoot him. He had killed him from the full health, brand new first turn, to dead from 2 Predators from a 1 command point stratagem. So take this into consideration. You need to keep them alive, and over anything else, rerolling 1s to wound, having special cool Gatling guns, cool super plasma guns, all of that's good, but it's only good if he's alive. So make sure you're taking defense into consideration. Now, I've been building my iGuard army. I feel if you take one of the big knights or any of the Imperial Knights with an iGuard army, and let's say you're going about 50-50, not just the small little command point battery, like I'm not trying to win some kind of tournament, I don't care about that. I might do it on occasion, but let's talk about like a Imperial Guard army with an Imperial Knight, or a mix of Imperial Guard and Imperial Knights. Both Knights will be very good if you have a Baneblade, Shadow Sword, Stormlord, anything like that, because now your opponent has two very juicy targets that are both toughness 8, technically much easier to kill the Baneblade style tank because it doesn't have an invuln. But does he want to let that Imperial Knight run wild while he tries to deal with that other tank? I don't know, right? He's going to have to make a tough choice. And now if you also have a couple Leman Russ or tank commanders, you have a lot of toughness 8 models on the board. And let's say, I haven't added up the points, but let's say all your actual guardsmen, besides maybe some heavy weapon teams, were in Taurox or Chimeras. Now you have nothing under toughness 6 actually deployed. Now what's he going to shoot at, right? So it gets real interesting pretty quick. Now, with the lowered point cost of the Imperial Knights, you'll be able to see some really nice combinations once you start playing around with the points for your army. Another army I'm working on right now, which I've just about finished, flying jump pack heavy bolter guys from the Dark Imperium starter set, is the Death Watch. They don't really have a lot of stuff that's going to hang out in the back and just shoot, say, home objective gun line. I'm playing with the idea of the heavy plasma gun for the Hellblasters and maybe stalker pattern bolt rifles. But a lot of the infantry intercessors, it's going to be mainly a Primaris Death Watch army. Actually, not mainly, entirely. No model will be not Primaris except for the Watchmaster or whatever, and he will be converted from a Primaris captain. So the whole army will be a Primaris army. It's the only reason I was even interested in building them. But so now you take Volcano Knight, and he's got a legit volcano gun that's going to flatten vehicles. And he's got an awesome plasma gun that's going to destroy vehicles, potentially destroy elite infantry, light vehicles. He has the wounds that he can overcharge and not worry too much about rolling ones because he only takes one mortal wound from it. You could invest in a Tech Marine or Engine Seer or something. I'm not sure how they would fall in exactly if you were doing, say, my Death Watch, for example. But in your iGuard or AdMech, remember, you can heal these knights. So don't forget that. There's also stratagems to heal them and stuff. And remember those. So if you had the Death Watch marching forward, now you got a monster knight, gunboat in the back, covering fire. That seems pretty nice, right? He's going to fit in nice. Or maybe, again, the flamethrower knight could go up with them. Now they have to decide, what are they going to shoot at? I am going to try, I haven't added the points yet, but I'm going to, because I got 2 repulsors, I'm going to see if I can make like an Imperial Knight 2 repulsor army and have basically everything either deep striking, toughness 7 or above on the board, just for the Death Watch, for fun. All these thoughts are just for possibly a weekend of a game or two, or a couple games, or a list I'll make, play once, put in my backpack, and then when I don't feel like making a list, I'll pull it out and be like, hey, I'll try this one again. Right, I'm not planning on taking these to an event or whatever. So those are 2 things to think about. Both of the new big knights seem very strong. The one thing I like, so the big Volcano Plasma Gun Knight is still going to have the 4 melt-a-gun shots, right, from his chest. And he is probably not going to get to use those as much, but he still has to buy them. So you could move forward with him. But I don't know if that's, ideal. I guess you're going to use those defensively if something comes across the board to you. And, you'll probably get a firearm because things are going to try and kill these knights. And you got to plan on that. Now, another thing I don't think you should skip over in your planning is the Renegade box set. It comes with 2 Imperial Knights and some terrible terrain, which looks really cool, but rules-wise, not very good. at least from my first glance at other people who have the book on YouTube, them talking about it. To me, it also does not look very good. I split the Renegade set last time with a buddy, so we each got one Imperial Knight. Then I sold, or I didn't split it 50-50. Basically, I bought the set, I sold the Avenger Gatling gun, and then made my own. I sold the terrain, and then I sold one of the knights to my buddy. And because I bought the set with a 20% off card at my local store, it was a great deal to have an Imperial Knight. I didn't really want one, but it just felt like it was a great deal. On that note, let me show you this real quick. If you take one of your extra little shields and glue these little plastic, what are they called? They're like, people use them to make terrain and stuff. They're little plastic white tubes. They're like PVC, but really tiny for modelers. So you can take the little shield from the Imperial Knight, glue these together, and this isn't set in yet, but that's how I make an Avenger Gatling gun. Also, I think there's a Spell Crow or something. They make a really cool one that you could just buy for like $15. Now that's important because when you buy the Renegade set, if you sell the Avenger Gatling gun on eBay, I think I sold mine for $45. $45, right? I don't know what they sell for right now because I haven't owned one since the last time the Renegade set came out. But check on eBay what an Avenger Gatling gun sells for, and you might be going to the store to buy little skinny plastic straws to make your very own Avenger Gatling gun, or going third party, because $45 for a single gun is totally worth it for selling, right? That already is going to cut down, I think that's like a quarter of the price almost of the whole set. So this leads me to say this weekend I can only buy one Renegade set, 2 knights. I sell the terrain and I sell the Gatling gun again, and I'm getting this at 20% off because I have a full stamp card. Or I buy the Volcano guy or the Flamer guy. My ADD hoarder Warhammer addict brain says you want to buy the new guy, right? You already have one of the old guys. You don't have one of these new guys. Pick up the new guy, right? But looking at a lot of the Codex reviews, one thing people maybe aren't talking about, which seems super valuable, I was talking about with a buddy, the Knight Gallant. He has Power Fist, Chainsword, I think like a heavy stubber or a melta-gun. You don't even have to take his carapace gun, but you could. He comes with a ballistic skill 2 and 5 attacks. That's 15 battle cannon hits in hand-to-hand combat with his kicks. That's 5 swings hitting on 3s with the Power Fist at a tank. It's 5 swings with the sword hitting on 2s at anything else that you, most of the time you're going to want to kick. But on occasion you might want to sword a character or another large model. Or if it's something you can pick up and throw, maybe throw a couple fist attacks there too. Now this can be buffed, like there's +1 attack on the charge houses and things. So all of a sudden these Imperial Knights that are like under 400 points, they're like 380 I think, 365, 380. Them just running forward at you, and they're there in one turn because they move 12 inches and can run and charge in some cases, or turn 2. That's not something your opponent can ignore. It'll easily replace a unit of scouts that they deployed on a middle of the board objective, right? They might put something on an objective thinking, oh, it's going to hold it for a turn or so, like some, say, Eldar Rangers, right? They're going to put them on an objective, and you're going to be -2 to shoot them, and ooh, it's going to be hard to get them off. All of a sudden, 15 battle cannon hits on 2s, on like a 24 wound toughness 8 model with a 5-up invul running across the board for less than 400 points. Pretty scary. Now what if you have 3 of those, and if you have the points, let's say they're 400 exactly, and I know they're under 400, or I'm almost positive, but maybe with the carapace weapon you could go 400 points. 3 of those for 1200 points, and then you have like an 800 point of infantry, right? What's that? 10, it could be like 40 Death Watch Marines, maybe 30 in a character or two. Or it could be like a ton of Eye Guard. Could be a mix of, AdMech and a couple of the little AdMech vehicles. Right, so it gets pretty interesting with these hand-to-hand knights, because a lot of things people deploy in the middle of the board are kind of defensive against shooting, but they're not defensive against 15 battle cannon kicks, right? They're just not. And it's like low enough in points that you don't lose a ton for taking him. You also could have more than one, and it could be overwhelming for your opponent. Like if you have 3 of those for, say, 1,200 points, and your opponent's choices are, let's say you had 3 of those and a Stormlord, and all of your Eye Guard deployed inside of the Stormlord. So on the table, when you deploy 4 units. The Stormlord with every Eye Guard model, assuming you don't need like a character out on the board to, roll for like command points or whatever. You might need that guy standing behind one of these things, and then 3 of these Knight Gallants or 2 Knight Gallants, and if I'm not sure, I don't think you could fit maybe. What if you could fit the Flamethrower Knight, 2 Knight Gallants, and a Stormlord with a bunch of Eye Guard deployed inside it? 4 Toughness 8 models. And your opponent's just like, okay, let's see what happens. Hopefully they have what it takes to kill one. Some armies will, like an Eldar army with Doom and Jinx and stuff. But even then, it's just one. They have to choose one of the 4. And it's interesting because they're all important, right? You can't have like a crazy melee knight hitting on 2s running at you, because he'll start to remove things from your army very quickly. And I think it will be kind of a pain in the butt for your opponent, especially when you take into account their stratagems that when the knight dies on a 4+, it can get back up with D3 wounds at the end of the phase. We're talking the end of the phase. Shooting is over, or they charge you with the Blood Angel guy and kill you in hand-to-hand combat, like a Sanguinary Guard unit or a Thunderhammer unit. Okay, they killed your knight. You died. 4+. Stand back up. D3 wounds. End of the phase. So it's your turn now. Interesting, right? Now you spend another command point, and that knight operates at its top tier as if it's not wounded at all. So full ballistic skill, full weapon skill, full movement. It annihilates whatever killed it. Or it runs across the board and continues on its journey to, and whatever else you have cleans up whatever just killed it. Let's say your opponent's, let's do this like a bar graph here. Here's your firepower. Here's your opponent's firepower. They shoot your knight. He dies. You roll a 4+. Your turn. You kill whatever can kill your knight. Their turn. They struggle. Maybe they kill the knight. Maybe they can't kill it in one turn anymore. And it's a new turn on another 4+. He could stand back up. Crazy, right? So your only focus is just killing all the things that kill the Imperial Knight, right? Las cannons, melta-guns, thunderhammers, mortal wounds, right? Things like that. Maybe you take some kind of little unit to absorb mortal wounds. Maybe you take an assassin detachment and do the Calexis assassins, or the Calidus assassin, or just 3 of them. A Calidus, a Calexis, and an Eversor, plus your 3 Knight Gallants. That'd be about 300, 12, that's 1,500. Then you still got 500 points of Imperial Guard or Adeptus Mechanicus, which probably just want bodies at that point. If you see what I'm getting at here, the Imperial Knights, although everything can hurt everything in the game, if you're shooting things that you're not efficiently hurting, you can end up with wasted turns. And a wasted shooting phase a lot of time is game over, especially in a competitive environment. A lot of people bank on, you know how many people, like, the first thing they always talk about is like, oh, I didn't get to go first. And even, like at Adepticon, I didn't get to go first ever. And I won 2 of my games, but, like, a lot of people just want to go first because that's the best thing, right? You get a chance to kill your opponent before they kill you. Now, if you go first with the Imperial Knights, kill their stuff, then they kill you, then you use a 4+ stratagem and don't die, then you go again, they're going to be crippled. Something that could prevent this would be, say, the Dark Eldars, Agents of Vect. But, say you took the Calidus Assassin. Now, on a roll of a 4+, you're making that stratagem cost them 4 command points, which is pretty nice. And potentially, you're not going to roll the 4+ anyway, so you're kind of pulling out 4 of them. And that's if they can kill your knight in 1 turn, right? So, but of course, they're going to do that to everybody, right? They're going to do that. Every single thing has to suffer from that currently. We'll see how that changes. It is a cool stratagem, but it's weird that the game is now a stratagem game, and there's one army that takes away stratagems. And then there's the Calidus Assassin, which makes stratagems cost a little bit more. Sometimes. On the first turn or battle round only. So my pick is your army a gun line? How are you moving forward? Remember, I don't believe there's a lot of characters or anything that's letting you re-roll much for these big boys. So it's all going to be in your warlord traits, in your house, in your relics. You probably want the extra command points from some kind of ally, but you don't necessarily need them. But, I mean, you could probably fit 5 Knight Gallants in a 2,000 point list. Be interesting. I think it'd be boring to play after like a weekend or 2. But, I don't know. That's just me. I like mixing and matching. So even what I'm saying too is don't get starstruck by how cool the new ones are, because they are very cool. Don't forget about the old ones who were already pretty good, and now, you know, they are maybe just a little too many points, or there's a little too much things in the game that can kind of kill them in 1 turn. But now they're getting extra defense. Now they're getting cheaper. Now they're getting a lot of things that kind of counter their kind of downside. So go out, pick up the Knight Codex if you don't own any Knights. If you do own a Knight and you want to jump into a Knight army, say, pick up the Renegade set. You'll have 3. Can't go wrong with that. 3 Gallants or whatever. You know, not to be Gallants. I was just thinking they're the cheapest. And then I think in December is when the Preceptor comes out. You don't quote me on that. The Preceptor is Power Fist and like multi-laser or laser glitter gun. That gun's probably easy to make out of your bits. Like, if you look at the bottom of like a Necron flyer or an Orc flyer or something, you might have the bits to make that weird triangular, right? It's like arrowhead kind of shaped laser gun. So you could definitely buy the Renegade set. It comes with a Power Fist, and you can make the Preceptor as long as you figure out how to make your laser gun. And make it however you want, just as long as it looks different enough that your opponent is like, oh, what's that? And you're like, oh, that's my laser gun. And that guy, I believe, lets your Armigers reroll. And I'm not going to get into that right now. We know they're good. 3 damage, 4d3 shots. You might want 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those. And also, you might want 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the little chainsword melt-a-gun guys. We haven't even got into discussing 3 Knight Gallants running up with 3 of those. Now what do? They don't have a lot of good options, right? A lot of these things can pile in like they're heroes or characters. It's going to be interesting. That's all I got for right now. Hopefully you enjoyed this little ramble about the Imperial Knight Codex. I'm pretty excited to pick it up. I just found a guy who picked up like a good portion of my Orc army, which is super cool because now I have extra cash for this weekend if I do want to jump in on, say, a Renegade set or the Valiant or Castellan Volcano Boy or Flamer guy. or I wait. And because I think in a week or two, Age of Sigmar 2 is coming out. I got to buy a lot of stuff for that. It's going to be quite a bit to jump in on because you have to buy the starter set. Everybody's going to want to play with the new Magic set, and then also the General's Handbook. So you got like 3 purchases. I think the rules are still going to be free online, so maybe you don't have to buy the actual starter set if you don't want the Stormcast or Ghosts. I personally do want the Stormcast, and I'll probably trade the Ghost for another half of Stormcast if somebody wants to do that. But my Stormcast army is getting out of hand. It's so big. So I think I'll need to put some focus in on them and figure out like what to keep and how to thin out the ranks. Because at this point, I think I'm going to have probably at least like 10 of everything, too much of everything kind of deal. I don't know what I'm saying. What are you excited about for the Imperial Knights? Do you have one? Are you going to pick one up? Are you going to pick up the Renegade set? Split it with a friend? You only need one to have a good time with this. I like that a lot of things in the game can kill them, because I thought in 7th they were ridiculous. Like, playing against the Imperial Knights was just not fun at all. They were like all ballistic skill 2 and way better than everything. And you literally had a huge portion of your army that couldn't even hurt them. But now I think it's going to be interesting. And I do think, and I am an expert, I think you'll see some knights shaking up the top 5, top 8, whatever. Is it top 8? Is that what everybody likes? Top 10? Some of these big events, right? I think they're going to start seeing these knights, because if you have to make an army that has to deal with like 90 orcs, or that's, something like that, a horde of Zangors, or 60 plague bearers, you have to deal with that. But you also have to make an army list that can also deal with 5 toughness 8 models with invulnerable saves. Good luck on your rolls. I don't know. You'll have to find the good balance. I think Eldar still come to mind as somebody that could handle it because of the 3 damage Dark Reapers, or 2 damage. They have options, and they have Jinx and Doom and spells that actually make their little guys hurt big guys. So they're already good at killing little stuff, and then they become very good at killing the big stuff too. So where do you think the Knights are going to fall in your local meta and competitive play? And tell me everything you want to tell me about Imperial Knights that I missed. Also, please subscribe. We're having a wonderful time here on the Redbeard Boss channel. I shaved my mustache, so now I look like an Amish person, and that means I'm trustworthy, so I'm an expert at things. I can build a fireplace that can heat your whole house and save you money on electric. Please subscribe.